thought, we have to manage our organization just like a Fortune 500 business would. And we're doing a ton right now with modernization, especially of our technology systems. Not only because, you as the taxpayers deserve a better user experience as seamless as it is with TurboTax, but we can also save the taxpayers money by working smart. So I've had a lot of experience. Like I said, I've worked in public finance pretty much my entire career, but nothing can really prepare for a pandemic. And so we all had to learn very quickly and I'm proud of a lot of the work that we've done, especially with data. Part of our job was to get that unemployment data out as quickly as possible so that our lending organizations, our big banks down to our community banks, could be better stewards of things like PPP and help bridge, especially the financial gaps for those individuals most impacted by COVID. There is no question, there's one individual who has been hit the hardest in Columbus and Franklin County, and that is the Black woman. As we look at the next, several months, and we look at long-term, how to really improve, our financial well-being, it is going to be with a couple of things: intentional focus on stimulus specific to those hardest hit. It's also going to be things like, I care deeply about innovative childcare and about things like innovative and a massive housing plan. These are the things that are going to move the needle on Columbus long-term. As auditor, it is kind of what I love about being auditor, let's say that, is that I have the ability to maybe champion the equality and champion equitable policy, often by showing here's the economic impact of inequality or of not doing something. So, as auditor, as I seek, re-election right now, I'm really committed to those laws and policies and practices that are inclusive of all people, not just because they're socially the right thing to do, but because they're really good for business. It's something that I share very much in common with City Attorney Klein. Frankly, anything less than full equality right now is the equivalent of a small business putting a "you are not welcome here" sign on their door. And it's not a political issue for me. This is a basic economics issue. So the platform for 21 and 22 is very big. I would be absolutely happy to take questions. And more than anything, Shiloh and Lisa, I'm just delighted to be here with your colleagues tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us, Megan, and that we like the equality and equity buzz phrases. We're really working hard on that right alongside you. And I know Colin Mcginnis from Southside Early Learning, who we're going to get to know here in a minute, is very happy to hear about your dedication to early learning. So thank you. I want to introduce the sitting city attorney, Zach Klein, who is running for his position unopposed, and give you an opportunity to do much what we've just heard from your colleague, which is give us a little introduction of yourself and your platform as you seek to keep your seat.
Of course, I knew I'd regret following Megan. But thanks, Shiloh and Matriots and Lisa and WTF question mark exclamation point for allowing me to be on today. I'm grateful. It's really been an honor over the past 3.5 years to serve as the city attorney. I was able to serve on the council and as council president prior to being the city attorney. But as Megan said, I grew up in southeastern Ohio in a little town called Belpre. It's right across the river from Parkersburg, West Virginia. We got excited when Parkersburg got an Outback Steakhouse and we were able to eat cheese fries. We thought we were living large when that happened. But it's a small town though, and while it was great to grow up there, I also went to a public high school, Belpre High, where we ended up sharing textbooks in some of our classes because we just were underfunded and under-resourced. But found my way to Columbus, where I've lived really for the past, I'd say 16 out of 17 years. And the reason I say 16 out of 17 is there was a year where I had the opportunity to serve for Vice President Biden at the White House. And I worked in DC Monday through Friday and flew back every weekend to, my wife and I were newly married at the time. But I made that commute every day for a year, every week for a year. But it was a tremendous opportunity to serve President Obama and Vice President Biden, obviously now President Biden in that capacity. But it's been really great to be the city attorney. The city attorney is the chief legal officer for the city of Columbus. It's also the chief prosecutor for all misdemeanor crimes that happen in the city of Columbus. I have about 170 people that work in the city attorney's office. It's about a $14 million budget, so it's like running a major public-facing law firm. The buckets of the city attorney's office that we oversee are the prosecutor division, the criminal division. That's all the prosecution for misdemeanor crimes that happen in the city of Columbus, ranging from traffic violations all the way up to something very serious like domestic violence. And it has been my mission over the past 3.5 years to reform the criminal justice system. And I think that we put Columbus on the map as a national leader in that space. We have eliminated cash bail for nonviolent misdemeanors. I've stopped the prosecution of misdemeanor marijuana possession. We created the first of its kind diversion program that focuses on the root causes of why people commit crime. We actually have partnered with a third-party healthcare organization that does a 36-question questionnaire to eligible defendants that really get at the root of why those defendants are in the courtroom. And those things range from obvious mental health and drug addiction, but also really get into the weeds. And this is what makes it unique, because it also looks at food insecurity, housing issues, employment issues, transportation issues. And each individual defendant gets a specific tailored plan to him or her to help them combat the reasons that they're facing and struggling with, those social determinants, to make sure they get a chance to succeed. And I'm proud to announce that after about roughly a year of its implementation, we have a little over 100 participants have gone through, and we have over a 90% success rate. That means that fewer than 10% recidivate, which is numbers in the criminal justice system that are outstanding. And we've now started to expand that outside of big box shoplifting to other nonviolent crimes. So we've been very busy in that space, and the next term we want to continue that momentum and continue to be forward thinkers and really blowing up the system of the criminal justice system, because it's broken. It yields results that aren't equitable or fair, primarily to Black men in particular. And so we have our work cut out for us, but I think we've hit the ground running and being a national leader in the space. Another role the office plays is we're the lawyer for the city of Columbus. I'm Megan's lawyer in her official capacity as city auditor. The mayor, the council, I'm the lawyer for all of them, and all 9,000 employees, which range from the police department and police officers all the way up to Department of Recreation and Parks, public safety, public utilities. All of those fall under my purview as it relates to labor and employment issues, for example. We also do all the real estate transactions, all the litigation associated with the city. And then the third bucket is one that I think is probably one of the more outward facing that a lot of folks on this call or watching on Facebook Live would be familiar with, and that's our zone initiative. Those are the lawyers that are out in the community, out in the neighborhood, that were shutting down drug houses, that are shutting down illicit businesses that are plaguing neighborhoods, and making sure that those landlords and landowners are held accountable so that they're living up to the standards that we all want to raise our family next to those sort of businesses and sort of houses. We've shut down, in my tenure, a record number of drug houses and a record number of bad businesses that are, prone and plagued with violence, and that are violence that lead to the violence in our neighborhoods. And then the fourth bucket, and then I'll close, is more of the proactive litigation, the impact litigation. This is something I started when I was Columbus City Attorney. The office did not have this, but I remember thinking as council president, why are Seattle and San Francisco and Chicago and Baltimore, why are they leading the national charge on issues regarding civil rights or voting or women's reproductive rights or healthcare? Why can't Columbus, as the 14th largest city, step into that space and be a national leader? And that's exactly what we've done. And we've taken on some very large cases, Columbus v. Trump over the Affordable Care Act, which we won, by the way, and that the president has the former president, thankfully, has sabotaged the healthcare system and the Affordable Care Act. We received summary judgment on half of our claims, which means that we were right in doing that. And now, because we have a president that we're aligned with, we're now working with the Justice Department to fix those problems where the previous president went awry. We got involved in the citizenship question for the census. We joined the state of New York and the New York Attorney General on that. We were victorious there as well. And then we've also, gotten involved in suing the state of Ohio over the ability for the city to regulate guns, specifically in the hands of domestic violence abusers. And the final one I'll highlight is the fact that we sued the state of Ohio over the broken background check system. And how sadly most of the information that's being entered into our background check system is insufficient. And so it's really worrisome to know that when you get a background check, whether you're buying a gun or doing it as an employer, you're not getting a full picture of everyone's true identity and whether they have a violent past or a past involving sex crimes or pedophilia. Some of that information is just not being entered correctly. And so we sued the state of Ohio to make sure that we find a solution to get it fixed.
Thank you. Thank you for the work that you've done, and thank you for your lifetime of service in various roles.
Thank you.
I have a question for each of you. Your election is in November. Will both of you take office in January of, where are we at, in 22?
That's correct. We are both up in November, yes.
Okay. Is there any reason why you couldn't come before us quarterly so that you could keep us abreast of what's going on in your offices?
Happy to do so.
Yeah, for sure. I have no objection getting that regularly scheduled, and just I maintain an open door policy. It's how I handle my time as city council and a city council president, and how I handle my time as a city attorney. So be happy to meet with anybody.
Great. Glad to hear that. Thank you so much. Okay. So now we're going to go. Thank you both so much for your time, and I hope you stay for the rest of the forum so that you can inform your vote for city council. So the forum protocols are thus: you candidates will have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves. Questions that we have will be addressed to all candidates in a race. You ladies will have 90 seconds per response, 60 seconds for a rebuttal. And so when you have 15 seconds, that's going to be what happens. And when you have 5, we're going to do this piece here. Okay. So next we are going to bring up the candidates for Columbus City Council that we have present tonight. And that is Lourdes Barrosa de Padilla and Sheila Eubanks. Ladies, are you ready?
Yes.
I'm ready. Hello,
And I saw
Sheila.
Lourdes come into the room. Great. How are you, Lourdes?
Good. I'm good. Yes, I am here. I'm sorry. I was having a little technical difficulty because technology is only your friend until it's not. But we are here.
Great, great. So question 1, are you ready?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sheila, I'm going to pose my question and ask you to answer first, if you don't mind. COVID, as we know, has disproportionately affected women, both from the point of view of women leaving the job market to take care of children and family, but also because many of the service jobs populated by women were first to be eliminated. What do you have planned for recovery specifically as it applies to women?
Well, I must say COVID did come in and took over, and actually in my current job, I work in HR and I deal with FMLA and the COVID leaves, and some people aren't lucky enough to have that coverage. But what I feel we need to do is we need to come and go to some of these larger employers to whom may have cut back a little bit and ask them to make special preparation for these women to whom have lost their jobs. Also, maybe create programs that may train in other areas to get them maybe even a better paying job to help them get back into the workforce so they're able to take care of their families.
Great, thank you. And Sheila, Lourdes, do you mind me using your first name, or if you have a different preference, please speak up. Okay.
Not at all.
Okay, thank you. Lourdes, I'd love to hear from you, and if you'd like me to repeat the question, I'm happy to.
Sure. I go ahead and repeat it, but I think I have the gist of that.
COVID has disproportionately affected women, both from the point of view of women leaving the job market to take care of children and family, but also because of the many service jobs populated by women, which were first to be eliminated. What, if elected, do you have planned for recovery specifically as it applies to women?
I love this question. I think that, we know this, and Megan talked a little bit about this. COVID has hit our communities of color harder than it's hit anyone else. And these jobs, we know, as part of the recovery plans, as we understand them now, the first folks to lose their jobs are going to be the last people to really feel the effects of COVID, any sort of COVID recovery. We need to right-size that. Right. And so I think that there's some innovative solutions to doing that. I think we need to look at really what are the barriers to people getting their jobs back. Right. So is it about offering employers opportunities to hire back or incentivizing hiring back those workers? Is it about childcare issues? Is there opportunities that we have? Childcare is a huge issue, even not when COVID times. I have 2 daughters, and there was a time where we seriously considered we were almost paying more in childcare than it was worth me working. And we know that that has been a concern even before the pandemic. So what are we doing to ease that stress on families? What are we doing to ease that stress for women? I think that we have opportunities. If you are a worker that can work from home, this has been, while it's stressful to have your kids here, we've removed some of those. That's 15 seconds, right, Lisa? Got you. Okay, so we've removed we've made it easier to remove those barriers, but for our frontline and essential workers, it's only gotten harder. And so I think we need to really look at what are those effects, and then how do we address those so we can get more women back into the workforce if they so choose.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She's a trustee for Community for New Directions.
In 1989, from a 2-bedroom apartment in the Sullivan Gardens housing development, Community for New Direction began as a volunteer-run program providing. Too many kids were dropping out of high school and turning to drugs, alcohol, gang activities, and crime. Today, C&D also works with the City of Columbus as a partner in the ACT's violence intervention and provides outpatient mental health and substance abuse disorder treatment for adults. In 2019, C&D opened an all-male recovery house and achieved a 3-year CARF accreditation. C&D provides help to anyone who needs it, regardless of their ability to pay. Mental health and substance abuse disorders often coexist, and our team is both. So that kind of touches on my question here around intervention and addiction. In total, Franklin County has reported 734 confirmed overdose deaths in 2020, more than any Ohio county ever, and a huge increase from 547 in 2019. It's estimated that about half of all people who are incarcerated are in there at least in part to an active drug or alcohol problem. Yet only 10% of them receive the drug rehabilitation they need to heal while they are behind bars. With the process of reimagining public safety that Columbus City Council is currently undergoing, can you share what steps you would take to ensure that people suffering from addiction are provided with the resources they need to seek out and successfully complete treatment instead of becoming involved in the criminal justice system?
Thanks for the question, Amy, and thank you for your work as well. I'm familiar with some of those programs, and I think it's so important for our community. And if you've ever been close to someone who has dealt with addiction or love someone, even if they're your neighbor in your family, it is a lifelong struggle. And so I think that I sit on the Chiefs panel currently, and this is something that we had conversations about as we're redefining what public safety means. Public safety goes beyond one agency, one uniform, one badge, and we need to think about how we wrap our arms around all members of our community. And how are we coming up with policies that address the actual needs of our folks instead of penalizing folks for problems that they're going to continuously have. If ultimately what we want is that we want people to feel successful, we want people to have all the same opportunities across the board in our communities, we need to start to work with organizations such as yours to start to put in policies and programs that are going to support those individuals and their families. It's a holistic approach. It doesn't mean that we are penalizing people for the challenges that they have, but we're really addressing those issues. And it's not just about the addiction itself that we need to address, but why? Why are people turning to addiction? Whether it's your sense of belonging, your loss of hope, your loss of opportunity, how are we really addressing those concerns for every single person in our community so that they can achieve their dreams and that they are making different choices that are going to have better outcomes for themselves and for their families.
Sheila.
Yes, I think first of all, we all agree we need more treatment facilities. In coming up with protocol for new treatment facilities, we also have to look at regulations, coming up with a set form to get someone into the facilities. Right now, it's so hard to determine what is needed to actually get a person that needs help in the system. I have a friend currently, and I feel her when she calls me that she is reaching for help. I can refer her to net care. How long does it take her to get into net care? She's not at a point where it's a life or death situation, and we talk through it daily. But the fact that when you run across people with an issue that needs to be handled, everywhere you go, Ohio State University, different protocol, Netcare, different protocol, Mary Haven, different protocol. If we can come up with a program where everybody's working on the same protocol, then it's going to be easier to get them in the system that is going to work best for them. Also, I would like to see providers in different ethnicities to address each person in their addiction.
Thank you. Shyla, do you have another nonprofit to intro?
Sure, I would be delighted to introduce Colin Mcginnis from Southside Early Learning. Colin, will you tell us a little bit about Southside Early Learning? Full disclosure, I'm on the board at Southside Early Learning and ask your question for these candidates.
Yeah, first, congratulations to each of you in deciding to run for office. My name is Colin Page Mcginnis, and I am the CEO of Southside Early Learning. Since 1922, Southside has providing holistic, high-quality early childhood education to the Columbus area. My question is the following. The COVID-19 pandemic has had devastating effects on our economy, and in particular on the childcare industry. A report from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce notes that 50% of parents who have yet to return to work cite the availability of childcare as their leading reason as to why. Further, a recent report has found without immediate action, nearly 30% of childcare providers anticipate closing within the next 3 months, right here in our backyard in Central Ohio. While acknowledging that the early education and childcare crisis is not new, but exacerbated by the pandemic, what role do you see the city having in increasing access to high quality early childhood education for families and our youngest neighbors?
And I think in this case, Sheila, we'll ask you to go first and then come to you, Lourdes.
First and foremost, we have to come up with funding. There's no ifs, ands, buts about that. That's one of the most important issues that we have in early learning. That's where we get our kids and we create or help the parent to create the foundation. I think that might be part of the problem that we're having now is with some of our kids, that foundation wasn't laid. And as a parent and someone to whom went to daycare on the Southside, it was an intricate part of my growing up. Some parents are unable to teach what a child needs as they progress to enter school, and they need that help. So what I would propose is looking at this budget, by any means necessary, there is needed funding for early childhood development or learning. I work very close with a couple of the daycares in my area, and it is so nice for the people of the Southfield community to be able to have a qualified daycare, early childhood learning center close to home and transportation.
You, Sheila. Lourdes, what about you? How would you tackle early learning for Columbus?
Well, there's one thing that I'm super interested in. I think that a way that we can solve this, part of the solution, I don't think there's ever a silver bullet to any problem that we have. It's always layered and complex. But one thing is, I think that this is an opportunity where I think we can deepen our partnership with Columbus City Schools in providing preschool in all of our schools or our elementary schools. I think there's two parts of this issue, right? Is first of all, is how do we make childcare more affordable? And we understand in increasing the quality of childcare. So when folks go out and you see those stars, right? Those are accreditations that we give childcare centers, right? The more stars, the better care that you're getting. They're meeting, I should say, meeting a set of criteria, right? That have been set forth of what their accreditation means. The more stars, the more that cost of that daycare goes up. The more stars, so that's something that we need to consider. How are we addressing the high cost of daycare for people? How are we working with employers to address that? But then also, how are we getting folks out of daycare earlier, right? So if you have a daughter like mine, she spent 2 years in preschool, right? Because of her birthday. And so those are 2 extra years of childcare that we pay for that could be different if we had preschool, free preschool in all of our schools. Now, obviously, that's going to take some creative thinking about how we fund that because everything has a cost. But what are the opportunities that we have to work with our partners to ensure that we are at least alleviating some of that cost by providing preschools for more families so that you don't have to spend as many years paying for childcare that you ordinarily would have. And to the point that Sheila was making, you know, I work for an education organization. That foundation is important, right? And I think that the last thing, to Colin's point, and I'm thinking back to the question, is I think also we have money pouring in, right? I shouldn't say pouring is relative, right? But we have recovery funds coming into the city. So how are we using that creatively to help all sectors of the community? And this could be a place where we could stretch out those dollars and incentivize those programs.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Colin.
I will thank Colin and Amy both for joining us. I do want to just preview a partnership between Southside Early Learning and the Matriots. We're hosting a policy conversation, much like this one, just about early learning and economic stability for women. It's May 6th at 4:30, and you can RSVP on the events page at matriotsohio.com. Lisa.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, ladies, the COVID-19 pandemic has elucidated the structural inequalities in our system. What is your commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion? And would you commit to requiring city administration, electeds, and employees to participate in this type of training on an ongoing basis? And the first one is Lourdes.
Great. So if and when I'm elected, because you need to manifest your dreams, I would be the first Latinx person to serve on city council. I also would be, I'm first generation American, so I would also be the first person in modern times from the immigrant, migrant, and refugee population that would have a voice on city council. And we know that currently Latinos make up 6% of the population in the city, and migrants, immigrants, and refugees are the driving force behind our population growth in the city. So I believe that representation matters. So I'm deeply committed to equity. I'm deeply committed to ensuring that all members of our community have a voice, and that they feel empowered, and that systems and programs, policy is attainable to everyone in our community. I think, one of the things that I'm committed to is that making sure that we are a learning council, that throughout this campaign, that we are breaking down we're breaking down policies for people, because knowledge is power. I mean, Sheila knows this. We were out together getting petitions. Folks didn't even know that you needed to sign petitions to get on the ballot, right? We had to break that process down, because there's a very inside baseball kind of process in the before that the larger community was not exposed to. And so back to your question, Lisa, around would I make this a requirement? Here's what I believe. I think it should be a requirement everywhere and at all times. As adults, we don't do the hard things. We don't do the hard work. We make our kids do it, right? We include it as part of curriculum. So I think the opportunity for us to become better leaders and better stewards of our community and better representatives of the communities that we're serving by giving us both proximity and knowledge, that is key to ensuring that we are staying true to our values of equity as a city. If we've declared it a public health crisis, this is one way to address it, by ensuring that the people who are serving this city understand what equity really means and how to be equitable in their work and their interactions with our communities.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Sheila?
Well, as a minority, to whom have lived this, I'm not ashamed of my age. I was born in the early 60s, lived it, actually worked through it through the 70s, actually experienced the inequality and attempted to work to address it at my level. But it's different when you have actually went through it, that you really feel that this is necessary. It is way overdue. We need to make sure our young ladies and our young gentlemen, whether they're Afro-American or Hispanic, it doesn't matter. We all are equal. And if these issues would have been addressed decades ago, we wouldn't be here with this problem. These policies would have already been enforced. However, there were those to whom did not feel that it was necessary at that time, so it was never addressed. So now we're at a time where everything is in the forefront. It's not just policing, it's not just a crime, but it's everything we live as equal citizens of this United States. So the answer to your question, Lisa, yes, it is definitely a must.
I have
Thank
a
you.
next question, but I do want to invite those who are with us here on Zoom. If you have questions, want to type them into the chat, we would welcome those. I'm keeping an eye on our Facebook page as well to make sure that we have a community conversation to the extent you'd like to have one. But Sheila, you probably figured out you get to go first on this one. So here's my question. A lot of people were hyper-focused on the national election in November, and many of them choose to sit out an odd-numbered year like this one. The Matriots mission is to focus on races that are local, from village to governor, right here in our backyard. For you, why does local politics matter?
Well, actually, that's the politics that is going to impact our direct life. As a part of my campaign, my team, we have to educate, because a lot of people do not pay attention to the issues that we have at hand. Are they watching zoning? No. Who watches zoning and pay attention to that? But these are things that can affect your community directly. So as a part of my campaign, in addition to getting people to know who Sheila Eubanks is, we are going to educate as to the problems that we have within our community and make sure they understand, yes, federal is important, but local is what is going to affect you, your kids, your grandmother, mother, and father. These are the things that we have to work on a daily basis. And to me, it's most important. Whether it's affordable housing, abatements, we have to pay attention to all of that. And as a part of my campaign, not only are we going to be registering voters, we will be educating on the issues.
Great.
Local.
Lourdes, why do local politics matter to you? Why should they matter to a voter?
I mean, all politics is local at the end of the day, right? I think that we care about, at the end of the day, I think that we care about what we see out of our window. We care about the roads that we drive on. We care about the neighborhoods that we live in. We care about opportunities for ourselves and for our children and for our neighbors and for our families. And so while we look at other elections that seem very, sexy and interesting, this is interesting, right? It's just a matter of us making it interesting, because everything is good until it doesn't work, right? And so when things don't work, that's when people start to get interested. But here's the problem. We have an opportunity to get to it before it stops working, right? That is the point that Sheila was making. I think it's about educating others. It's about educating people about the issues. People are not engaged because we don't engage them, right? When I think about this campaign, the whole reason that I got on the ballot was because it was a group of women, mostly women of color, who worked to get me on the ballot because no one had ever asked them to come to the table. And what they saw in me as a candidate was they saw themselves, a piece of themselves. Even if physically I didn't look like them, what they saw was a leader who would represent them, right? They saw that they had a voice. And I think that that's part of the problem, is that we have not engaged folks in local politics. We have not made it feel like the City Hall is the people's house, when indeed it is. We've not made it attainable for them. We need to have conversations where we can break things down for folks about what the issues are, what policy means, and how do you empower yourself? And what I mean by breaking that down is literally breaking down policy, but also making it attainable in other languages, going into neighborhoods, understanding, boiling things down for people about what this means for you, redirecting folks when they do go to City Hall and they go to the wrong committee. If you should be in a zoning meeting or you're in a budget meeting and you should be in this meeting, how are we redirecting people to the resources that they need? And all of that affects your everyday life and how you live your life and the opportunities that you have for you and your families. And if we're really going to be true to investing in people and their families, then we need to work on that.
Thank you. I keep hearing and reading about these communities that are further ahead in inoculating people, and often it does have to do with just meeting people where they are and helping them get educated from that point, right? Not assuming we all have the same information. So that resonates with me. Thank you.
Yeah, I have to say as well, I was very excited that both of those candidates recognized that the actual power is the other way around, and we really have to educate that. The people are the public servants' boss, and we need to just let them know that. And that will get them engaged in the process. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So my next question, I don't see anything in chat. Do you see anything? Okay, great. So ladies, my next question is, Priscilla Tyson and Mitch Brown recently announced that they will be resigning at the end of their terms. Pursuant to Ohio state law, their petition nomination committees have the authority to name new people to the ballot in their place. How important do you think it is to have transparency into how the committee makes their selections? Will you commit to demanding that the committees hold a public process and consider all of the residents, even those who drew petitions but did not meet the signature requirement, as part of that process? And I'm going to ask that question first to Lourdes.
Yeah, so here's the deal. I think that I know that this process has been, well, not just this process, I mean, the process of the appointment process for city council has been challenging. I feel like, this go around, and I shouted out Sheila before, but I also have to shout out my other folks who are in the Zoom, some of our judges who were also out there during those cold January weekends, getting petitions as well in the middle of this pandemic, doing drive-through events. We were stopping people in the short north. I mean, this was hard work doing this. I think that transparency at all levels of government are important. I think that what it shows is a trust in the people, and it is a trust in our leadership as public servants. And I think that that's where, the transparency sometimes comes from, whatever it is that is driving people from preventing them from being transparent during this process. I think that what we need, this is another one of those situations where what we need to look at is how are we changing policy, right? And how are we changing this process? And I think that the change in this process comes from having more diverse voices at the table who can influence what the process is, and engaging folks in empowering themselves to change the process. I think that I don't want to lose sight of the fact that, and this is not just selfishly for me, again, I think it's about the idea that I represent. Being the first Latinx person who could be on the city council is a breakthrough. The fact that we had, out of 12 people who drew petitions, Sheila and I were the only 2 women. In this race right now, we have 3 Latinas who are running, 2 for school board and myself. The other person running for school board besides Ramona Reyes, Christina Vera, she's a first-time candidate. I think that those are breakthroughs that we cannot lose sight of. And so I've only redirected because I feel that sometimes we lose sight of the breakthroughs that we have made in being frustrated with what the process is. The process needs to be transparent. I think there's progress that we've made in making the process more transparent. There's still work to be done, but I don't want to lose sight of the breakthroughs that we have made. And I don't want to lose sight of the work that we need to continue to do, because in this cycle, there should have been more women on this ballot. I should not be the only one.
Thank you. Sheila?
Wow. As a writing candidate, Lord, she went the only female. I'm out there with you. But our differences is I have to call it like I see it. Whether it is a straight outright appointment or a appointment from a nominating committee, an appointment is an appointment is an appointment. And what I've been getting as I have traveled to different communities, our citizens have picked up on what has been going on. There's no other way to sugarcoat how this has been the process for years and years and years. There comes a time when it has to stop. Transparency is most important. When people begin to not trust you, there goes your credibility. There's no way around it. This should be an open forum, open to those to whom have submitted their petitions for one reason or another was disqualified, but that also put in the ring that they had interest in this position and doing this job. And to have, I can't remember, I think it's 5, make this decision. I think, and I know the charter says that. However, this is being almost trickery because it doesn't forwardly appear to be an appointment, but in the end, it's an appointment. So yes, as it relates to my candidacy, I am going to reach out because I think that is a very important thing to let them know. You know, I think this will make you look good. Come on, it's time for our city council to do the right thing. I wouldn't even be sitting here today if I felt my community was being listened to, was being heard. There was a conversation, a phone call that turned me around. When I got off that phone call and it was a city council member, I knew no, they did not care about the Southfield community. And in that, whatever it takes, I am going to go to every neighborhood, whether they let me be a part of that slate or I stay as a write-in candidate, and do it through community and the forgotten people. And make sure they understand, if it goes through with this appointment by the nominating committee, this is no different than those two winning the election and later putting them in their seat.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
You're welcome.
Sheila, I'm going to stick with you, and I would like to get to know you and Lourdes just a little better. Tell us about your most important accomplishment personally and professionally. What springs to mind for you? What are you most proud of?
I am most proud of the fact that I still have both my kids on a daily basis. My dad is 90 years old and my mother is 80 years old, to whom still works in the Catholic school system as the grandma of the school. And my dad at 90, you know, I'm his physical therapist. I'm his occupational therapist. There are times on my Facebook page, you'll see my 90-year-old dad doing dishes. But what he don't understand is anything I can get him to do is exercise. So I have them, the work I do with them, it's amazing when I see the progress and the things that they are still able to do. So that was my personal. Professionally, I would have to say during COVID, I saw a need in the Southfield community. My community was not getting the COVID funds. City council was not sending things to my community. But as a part of the nonprofit that I direct, We were able to continue to do our produce giveaways. I partner with the Food Soldier, to whom is also a part of Southfield. We were able to develop a model that was COVID safe. We were serving at sometimes in the beginning of the pandemic up to 300 families per giveaway. And we did that all the way up until December. We gave out COVID bags. Also during that time, my community spiked in crime, and I was able to kind of to bridge the gap between community and policing, because at that time my houses were getting shot up. I needed the police. I needed the good police. And we were able to do that and bring them in. We had a COVID safe Sunday dinner on the outside, social distancing, mask. And also we did a walk along through our neighborhood with Safe Streets, the bike patrol, and the community loved it. I mean, there's pictures where a young guy, little guy, couldn't have been no more than 4, right? He comes out with his Batman cape on and just, not attack, just run right to this officer. And I know this officer, a good officer. But to see that versus everything we went through during the rioting and just the differences in the policing and the community, it was a beautiful thing. And all that happened between June and December of last year.
Busy. Thank you for serving your family and your community.
Thank you.
Lourdes, what makes you proud personally and professionally? I'm sorry to make you pick just one.
I know. I think first of all is, I've spent my life working with young people. The entirety of my career, I've worked with an organization called City Year, and I started as a core member. I started my year of service actually serving on the Southside, turning an old church into a community center. And I think about being super proud of my service career, but also I think now having the opportunity and having a hand in raising so many other people's children, I think I now have my own. So I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they are certainly my greatest accomplishment, along with I'm an auntie to 17. I will say I only have 2 sisters, and that math may not work out in your head, but hold on tight. It's because I have an older set of nieces and nephews that are closer in age to me than my sisters, who also have children that are the age of my children. So for me, we are like, we are a tribe, right? We are raising all of these babies together. And so they are, without a doubt, I think personally, them, my family, my father passed away a few years ago. And so my mother is, she's still the matriarch of the family. You cannot take that away from her. But I think, in the line of succession, I'm like second to the throne. So I take that very seriously as well. And being able to provide for them has been an amazing gift. I think, especially when you think of COVID times, the majority of my family, even my husband, were essential workers. And so, every day, I complained about being home with my kids when they were literally, going to Amazon to ensure that people got groceries. My husband was feeding students on OSU's campus. They didn't have jobs that had the luxury of always working from home. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, the second question about my career-wise, and see, you said one and I tricked you and gave you a couple, but I think there's 2. And I think that one is, I think women are dope. And I we don't need just t-shirts and conferences to remind us of that, right? But we have built up this culture that that's what we do. And so I have, for the past 12 years, run an organization called the Latina Mentoring Academy, which is a program that I say that secretly our mission is to take over the world. That makes people feel uneasy, but I want people to feel like they can take over the world, right? I want women to feel that way. And so we were bleeding Latina talent, and we have been able to grow this program that really helps to empower women. And it's open to women of, I mean, we've had women who, you know, crossed the desert when they were 13 years old, to women who are doctors and lawyers are restarting their careers, and giving them the ability and the permission, which they never needed it from us, of owning their Latinidad and owning their true authentic selves and showing up in places as who they are. That you can use that as an asset, and you don't need to whiten or downplay yourself in order to participate in mainstream culture, right? And so in addition to the learning piece, we also pair them with a Latina mentor in the community that guides them through their experience. In addition to that, we've also run half-day conferences, networking events, not just for Latinas, but for other women in immigrant communities, because we understand that women are the backbone of all of life, right? We run our homes, we run our communities, at the job, we are running things. And so it's about empowering them and having them see themselves as true leaders. And I think that's what leads me also to this moment. I mean, I think being the first of anything is a great responsibility. You know, to me, this campaign isn't about just me as a candidate. It's really about an idea that, you know, I come from immigrant parents who came to this country with literally nothing. My father had the equivalent of an 8th grade education, opened the first Latino food store here in Columbus. My family has always been about building a community around us and creating a sense of belonging and giving back. And that is something they instilled in our DNA. And I think for me, the idea of this campaign is that I didn't graduate from high school. I was not a politician. I did not go through, I hustled, right? Because all women, all immigrants, that's what we are. We are hustlers. We make, we bake, we create something. And unfortunately, that is usually our side hustle, is our dream hustle, right? And how do we change that dynamic? And for me, I'm a candidate who is representing that idea and giving little girls, little brown and Black girls, because I come from a brown and Black family, that they can see me and say, I can do that too. No matter what the obstacles are, no matter how hard people tell me this is, I can still work my way and get there. And I can see myself and I can do it because I saw someone else do it. And they brought a chair to the table and they left the door open for me and they invited me into this conversation.
Fantastic. I love your passion, and thank you for seeing a need and filling it. That's the way forward, right?
That is phenomenal. So my question was going to be as toward your community involvement before. Am I getting a delay? Because I can hear it. Okay. My question was going to be about your community involvement before you decided to run for office, and I have never been so happy to have a question stepped on because you all have been out there doing that thing. Thank you so much. So my question now is, tell me about your political role models. You can give me 2. And Lourdes, could you go first, please?
Such a hard question. I think my political role models, what's interesting, so the first one is not a traditional political role model, but I think also I'm gonna stay in modern times, is first and foremost Michelle Obama. And I think that she embodies to me, you know, even though she was not a politician, I think that she embodies to me the role that you play, that your family plays, because I think that this is a family decision, right? And the role that she played as First Lady in, I think, guiding us by values and by principles. And to me, that's the kind of campaign that I want to run. I think, you know, I love that Sheila's here. I love that she stuck in this. I love that she said, you know what? I didn't make it this way, but y'all are going to write me in and I'm going to give people choices. And I will always, always, especially a woman, especially another woman of color, I will never, we can have differences of ideas, but I will always uplift her. And I think that that is important for us to do as women. And I think that we've made politics dirty and it's kept dirty because we have been okay with that. And I think we have the power to change that. But it's when you become complacent that things stay the way that they are, which is why we're all here today, right? So Michelle, without a doubt, that her idea of when they go low, we go high, all day. Secondly, I think the other person that I would say is, and this is just when you ask me, this is the thing that stuck out. I think it's hard to pick one, but I'm going to pick the squad. Like when I think of, I lived in Boston for a while, so Ayanna Presley, AOC, I'm going to forget everyone's name just because this is what happens when you're under pressure. But I think that that idea of this collective group of women coming together and saying, we have these progressive ideas and these progressive values. Nina Turner just popped up in my head too, but these women that are unapologetically them and owning their leadership and owning their diversity and their diverse backgrounds and not only that, but also supporting each other. I think that's what I'm talking about when I talk about being values-based, that they are bringing a different perspective, a different view to the table, and they're doing it together and working together. That's what female leadership looks like.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Sheila.
Okay, let's see. The first one, I would have to say Elizabeth Warren. And why I say her is I liked her ability to explain issues. I like the idea that she came with a plan. Part of my campaign, as we spoke earlier, I have a lot of educating and presenting in a manner that everybody will understand the issues at hand. And I also have to come with some solutions. So she's one that I look up to. Now, the other ones, and I can't get off here without mentioning Stacey Abrams. What she did in Georgia, we need to do here in Ohio. And that's what I'm working for. We are going to turn Columbus all the way around. We are going to do that voters registration bit. We're going to explain exactly what has been going on in our city government. And I don't want to come across as sounding like an angry woman, but I have been on the front lines for probably close to 20 years. I moved to Southfield in 1967, and I'm still in Southfield today. So I have seen the transition of my community. I have seen how my community has been ignored. But it also, in going to other communities, I see we have the same struggle. So I'm looking forward here in the city of Columbus.
Great. Thank you so much. So I did have an additional question. I believe in speaking into existence what you want. So when you ladies are seated on council, do you commit to coming back and talking to us and doing some of that explaining? Because that's what you both were saying is really critical to open up that process to the public. So do you commit to coming in front of us quarterly and talking to the voters?
Absolutely.
Good deal. Good deal. All right. Sheila, did I get a yes? I'm sorry.
Look, I ain't gonna let you get away without me answering that question. Shoot, we can almost talk months. This has been such a wonderful conversation. I felt no pressure. I have felt comfortable. talking with each and every one of you. Lourdes, I wish you the best of luck. And just like you, I will always uplift my sisters. And when I say my sisters, I don't care. It doesn't matter. We are sisters.
I appreciate that.
Hi. Well, I'm grateful to be here tonight, and I'm grateful to hear this conversation. You know, I think I, along with my colleague Stephanie Mingo, we started an initiative recently. It's called Beyond the Bench Community Conversations. And what we do is we go out to various groups within the community, different outreach groups, community members, educational, any organizations. And the principle of you have more information, and in our view, can't make decisions in a vacuum. You have to be engaging. You have to know people's struggles, their challenges, their hardships, the real life situations that they face. So the more our mission all along, and that's what we've been striving to do. And in your efforts to see our community thrive and to continue to improve it. And I wish you the best success. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, could we have Rena Shack?
Hi, Lisa. Thank you. And congratulations to everybody that's on here tonight. You guys did an amazing job and you are running amazing campaigns. You know, my platform in running for Franklin County Municipal Court Judge just really stems from my roots in public service. So similar to Lourdes, I come from an immigrant family. My dad came over on a 12-day boat ride from a tiny island in Greece. I grew up in a bilingual family that faced a lot of struggle. It's really just rooted my family in public service. And so that's been a part of my heart my entire life. Going to law school, I knew I defender with Franklin County Public Defender's Office now for my entire legal career. I spend my days making sure that our community members that are part of the most vulnerable and marginalized groups of our community are serviced in ways that they might not otherwise be. I get them access to drug treatment, mental health, access to crisis centers, housing, transportation. I've gone and brought clothing in for my clients or made sure that they had clothing for their kids. So it's not all about the legal aspect. That's what I'm professionally trained to do. But the reason I love my job is because of that public service aspect. I have worked with every individual, every type of individual in Franklin County. And I think it is so important to make sure that you're speaking to the needs of the community. And I think as somebody who comes from an immigrant background and somebody who has dedicated their life to public service, this isn't about the glory for me for being a judge. It's not about having the title of being a judge, because I wouldn't be a public defender if that's what I was after. It's really about the service to the community and making sure that we have voices on the bench who can adequately serve the community in the ways that it needs to be serviced. So that's why I'm running for Franklin County Municipal Court Judge. Everybody here has done such an amazing job tonight. And I appreciate Lisa and I appreciate Shiloh for giving us the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. McAllister?
Hello, thank you very much. This has been a great program. Loved having listened to all you speak. I was raised by women, strong women, and I appreciate you all and all you're doing. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. I was also, a lot of everybody's talking about lifting up the people who don't have representation. That's why I'm here. I was raised, with nothing. We were raised poor, welfare system, eviction issues. All my brothers were in the criminal justice system. My sister was a teen parent. So everything we're talking about tonight, I've already lived through that as well. So that's why I'm here, to make sure that, as Laura stated earlier, representation matters. When you look on the bench, you want to be able to see people who come from all walks of life representing the people. That's why I am running for municipal court judge this year here in Franklin County, because I want people to look at the bench and see someone, to be able to identify with someone who's been through what they're going through, what their family's gone through, and know that there is someone there who understands those things. So I just want to say thank you all very much for letting me say that, and for educating me further on the things you spoke about tonight. Thank you, ladies. It's been a great program.
Thank you so much. Shiloh, you want to close us out?
Sure. I want to thank all of the candidates. I'm so delighted that Lisa called on the judge candidates as well. It's great to hear everybody's kind of reason for running. I think many of you know that women in particular have to be asked 6 times to run. So the fact that there are so many of you who have raised your hands is really encouraging to me, particularly from the point of view of what the Matriots is trying to do. I am going to put into the chat if there's something that I can do to help you further connect to the Matriots. I want to be available to help you do that. Thank you to our candidates, and thank you to our nonprofit leaders. I appreciate all of your time tonight, but most particularly, thank you to Lisa for offering to the Matriots that we could partner on these 3 panels. And I'm looking forward to April 29th when we hear from the Reynoldsburg city races and Columbus School Board. So I hope you'll all join us then. Thank you.
Hey.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.